10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome again to India on Cricket 8, your number one destination for all things Indian cricket related, be it on YouTube, on Facebook, and via your usual podcast provider. I'm Nikesh Ragani, your host as always, alongside Megha Sinha. And today we are very excited because we get to preview the upcoming season of the IPL for 2024. It's been a sort of long time coming. There's been lots of anticipation. Of course, we've just talked about the Women's Premier League, which has just concluded. So the appetite for T20 cricket very much there in India, following that series, that test series between India and England as well. All eyes now focused on the shorter format in the lead up, of course, to the T20 World Cup. And Megha, we are very much excited, not just to see how the IPL unfolds, but how the Indian players do in it and how they lead up into that T20 World Cup, right?
Absolutely. So many gaps actually to be plugged because we saw that after the 2022 T20 World Cup, a lot of the regulars didn't feature in the 11 for the longest time. Afghanistan series allowed the likes of Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma to get a look in, but there's so many questions that are yet to be answered, so many gaps to be filled. So, of course, all of those points would be addressed during the course of the IPL, and we've seen how important IPL has been as far as Indian selection is concerned. And in this particular case, with the T20 World Cup, immediately following the IPL, the form meter would be extremely important. So many obviously spots up for grabs, and beyond that as well. When we talk about the IPL, there's no dearth of subplots. So Mahendra Singh Dhoni back yet again, and of course Hardik Pandya being traded to MI, so homecoming of sorts for him. So much really to talk about. But what is it that makes you very excited?
Look, I get to commentate on it for the BBC. So once again, for those listening in the UK and watching in the UK, the BBC has once again got the radio rights, so you can listen to full commentary on the games on BBC 5 Sports Extra and on the BBC Sounds app, on the BBC Sport website and app as well. And we'll have regular content for you from that. So look, getting to work on it, getting to watch basically the best players in the world in white ball cricket ply their trade in front of huge crowds. What is there not to love really about the IPL? All the glitz and the glamour that goes along with it. So much interest around the world in this tournament. And you touched on it there. MS Dhoni, is it going to be his last dance? Let's start with the Chennai Super Kings, champions last season, of course, their fifth title, equaling the Mumbai Indians, and a dramatic finish as well. I remember commentating on that final ball. It was a 2-day final, wasn't it? Pretty much, or a little bit longer, 36 to 48 hours, somewhere in between that it took for that final to sort of start, the toss to happen, the pre-match concert and everything like that. Then eventually the rain, and then they came back the next day and finally got it done with another rain delay in between, another concert that happened as well. The performers having to sort of perform on both days. But we got there in the end, and it was a familiar story, wasn't it? The Chennai Super Kings coming out victorious against the Gujarat Titans, who looked like they had the match in their grasp and looked like they were all set for a second consecutive title. And then it's Tala's magic once again, which does the trick. Look, like I say, defending champions, they've got a very different feel to their squad this time around. They've gone for a bit of a New Zealand theme, I suppose. Rachin Ravindra, the flavour of the month after that ODI World Cup in India, very much put himself in the shop window with his performances there with the bat. Daryl Mitchell has come in as well. Devon Conway has already been there, another New Zealander. However, he's probably going to be injured until at least sort of mid-March. So we'll wait and see if he plays any part in the IPL himself. But a slightly different feel. So they're trying to bring some of the young in with the old in recent times, aren't they? Because we call it the dad's army, the sort of veterans on parade. They always get the job done. But then occasionally you do see those seasons like a couple of years ago where it just seems a bit too much for them. How do you look at their balance now with those new signings as well, with the players they've got available? And how do you assess that as a squad?
So Chennai Super Kings, like Mumbai Indians, have their own even odd pattern. Although in Mumbai Indians' case, last couple of seasons, that has not really worked in their favor either. But of course, we talked about MS Dhoni. He's making a comeback after that knee surgery. I don't even know if the word comeback qualifies because he doesn't play international cricket. And except the 2020 season where he actually struggled massively because after 2019 didn't play any international cricket, but subsequently has come up with some important knocks, and probably that's the reason why he's still so relevant. He can win you a couple of matches across the over the period of the season, and obviously also be the captain cool and the captain dynamic that he's known to be. But apart from that, Devon Conway last couple of seasons played a huge role in Chennai Super Kings doing well, particularly the last season. Away because of that thumb injury, wouldn't be available up until May at least. So Rachin Ravindra, although not a regular in New Zealand 11 for the T20I format, but then he probably could be considered as a replacement for that slot. And Daryl Mitchell, I mean, both of these players are so good against spin, absolute spin bashers, and probably with the Chepauk track expected to be slow and low, you'd reckon that they might just pounce on that opportunity and do well. Shivam Dubey as well during the course of the Ranji Trophy suffered a sort of niggle, is in the NCA rehabilitating, so that is an area of concern. And even in the bowling department, Matisha Patirana, we saw that again in his case as well. At Silhet, he suffered a niggle and then has been out of action for a bit now. So how he shapes up, he's their designated death over bowler. Deepak Chahar, since 2023 December, he hasn't bowled in any professional game. So all of that concern, of course, remains. And obviously, otherwise as well, in the bowling department, particularly pace department, there might be just some concerns. But how do you look at it holistically? What are their strengths, you reckon, and areas of concern?
Well, they've got certainly a lot of spinners to choose from, haven't they, within their squad? I think that is a massive strength of them. As you say, the batters that they've chosen are particularly good against spin themselves. So in home conditions, they should be pretty strong. Look, pace department, Mustafiz Rahman is back again. He might not be available for the whole tournament. He might have to leave a little bit early to go and focus on his national duty and prepare for that T20 World Cup with Bangladesh. He's only been given permission to be with the squad until the 11th of May. So that could be a little bit of a concern. Shardul Thakur returns to the Chennai Super Kings, of course. My one sort of lasting memory of him in a CSK outfit isn't really a good one from his point of view. It's that final of 2019, again, one which I was fortunate enough to commentate on, the very final delivery of that Mumbai Indians chase and, the Chennai Super Kings chase against the Mumbai Indians. And it was Malinga with that slower delivery, that Yorker, which trapped him LBW. And he was trying to play across the line. He could have just knocked it away, at least got one and tied the match when they needed two to win. But he was trapped LBW. So he's back in the Chennai Super Kings fold. He's been speaking highly about MS Dhoni. And it really is. Look, everything with the Chennai Super Kings, you talk about the quality of the other players in their squad and all those kind of things. But everything lives and dies with MS Dhoni, you feel, as a captain, as an influence in the dressing room. Anyone who signs for the Chennai Super Kings, you know, I know Moeen Ali quite well, England all-rounder, of course. He speaks so highly of MS Dhoni, and just the atmosphere around the Chennai Super Kings camp, the way they're looked after as players, the way their families are looked after. I think that's hugely important, and that is very much an MS Dhoni trait that he has put on this team and on this squad. And that is why he is Mr. CSK, might be from all the way up in Ranchi, but he's a favourite son of Chennai, having been captain there for so many years. And who knows, will it be his last dance? We've been saying that for what, 4 or 5 years now? But he just keeps going on and on and on and on. And yes, he had those little couple of blips in between in the last couple of years, but last season came back strongly, won a few games with the bat, and finished pretty well. Even just the atmosphere that he can create coming in when he's got one delivery to face in an innings and they're batting first and there's no chase, nothing like that. The way the crowd responds to the wicket that falls for their own side, and then the roar that happens when he enters the field. There's nothing like it in world cricket, just to see their hero face one or two deliveries out in the middle. And, more often than not, last season when he had that to do, he'd come up with a boundary or a six or something like that just to entertain the crowd. It's just absolute box office stuff. And when you've got the crowd on your side like that, behind a player as iconic as MS Dhoni, you've got every chance, really. We spoke about RCB a little bit yesterday when we talked to, the WPL and just the fan following that the RCB franchise has had ever since the IPL started. CSK is on an even higher level than that, I think, in terms of craze and in terms of just absolutely living and breathing everything that their franchise does. So yeah, a lot depends on MS Dhoni and his captaincy in particular, which I don't think is a massive issue. His wicket keeping still looks pretty good. And if he can deliver with the bat every now and again, they've certainly got half a chance with the rest of the squad they've got as well. So definitely, I think, look out for the Chennai Super Kings as being contenders. They've got that record over a long period of time of making the playoffs and getting to finals. They know how to win, and they've been doing it recently. And they're going to come up against the Royal Challengers Bangalore in that very first game of the competition, aren't they? RCB, Kohli's back. That's massive, isn't it?
Absolutely enormous, and how hungry he would be, because he's not played cricket for a while now, a couple of months, when of course India was involved in that intense series against England. And unlike the 2022 season when he was struggling for form, 2023 season, it was in the IPL that he actually rediscovered his touch and was again back to being instrumental for Royal Challengers Bangalore. In fact, even the game, the do or die clash in which they lost to Gujarat, in fact, it was Virat Kohli who ensured that the match did go on till late. He ensured with a century that RCB posted a respectable total. So, still extremely crucial to RCB's chances is Virat Kohli. But I think there are a couple of areas this time around, maybe in the auctions, that could have been catered to. Leg spin department, we've seen they've got quality, they've had quality in that department for the longest time. 2014, once they signed Yuzvendra Chahal, he was around and he was instrumental for a very long time. Hasaranga came in as well, maybe not as impactful, but this time around they have got barely any experience in that department. So maybe Big Chinnaswamy support group there would be wondering about it. RCB support group at the Chinnaswamy, because we've seen how useful on that wicket leg spinners can be, just with the sort of heart that they are in a position to show, because otherwise the wicket is very good for batting. So maybe minor areas of concern, but Mohammad Siraj, of course, when he is in touch, we know what he can do. Against Kolkata Knight Riders, we remember the 2021 edition where he absolutely totally dismantled their top order. So those sort of impact players, of course, RCB would be banking upon. But all in all, there are areas of concern this time around, even ahead of the season.
Yeah, look, it's the batting that you look on paper over so many years. I mean, you go back in time, and Chris Gale was an RCB legend, and we all know about his exploits at the top of the order. Kohli's been there from the start since 2008, and they've always had those powerful batters in their side. AB de Villiers, of course, and imagine the three of them in a side, and it's a little bit of a similar vibe these days with Faf du Plessis and Virat Kohli there at the top of the order. You've got Glenn Maxwell in there as well. I mean, the runs are not always generally a problem, batting first and things like that. And even a couple of years ago in 2022, when Dinesh Karthik found his form as a finisher and got back into the India side as a result, it was even chasing scores. You've got the platform setters at the top, then you've got somebody like a Karthik to come and finish things off down the order. So I think batting is strong, and it's gone even stronger now with Cameron Green being signed as a result of the knock-on effect of Hardik Pandya moving to the Mumbai Indians, and we'll talk about that in more detail later on. But Green would probably find himself quite high up the order, I would imagine. I think they're pretty much settled when it comes to that. The big concern has been, the spinners, and I think that's going to be another concern this time around overall as a spin unit. Do they have enough to cause problems on lower tracks like in Chennai and like several other places that they might face towards the end of the tournament? And the fast bowling, as just the bowling in general really, but the fast bowling in particular over the longest period of time has been a concern. I mean, Mohammad Siraj is now the leader of that seam bowling attack. So I think that's a massive bonus for them, the way he's developed over the last 3 or 4 seasons. And it looks pretty strong on paper. You talk about the overseas players like Reece Topley, like Alzari Joseph, new signing, of course. Lockie Ferguson as well, coming in there with the extra pace. And then they've got the locals like Akashdeep, who's recently made his India Test debut, Yash Dayal, who's been signed from Gujarat. So it looks pretty strong this time around, but it's that age-old question, isn't it? Is this going to be the year for RCB? They've never done it before. They've been to 3 finals before. They've threatened, haven't they, in the last 2 or 3 years to be a different RCB. But then when it comes down to it, comes down to crunch time, it is the same old RCB. And they're a bit like South Africa in international cricket tournaments, aren't they? Don't want to use the C word, but they have choked a little bit, haven't they, in
I
recent
didn't hear
times?
that. I didn't hear that. Sorry.
Just a
But
cough.
but
I've just got a cough.
oh, all right. We'd obviously supply you with cough syrups. But coming back to the RCB and their chances, last season was the only time in 5 years that they didn't qualify for the playoffs. Otherwise, they've managed to build that consistency, which was, again, lacking in the initial years of the IPL. Because remember, first season they were abysmal, second season made it to the finals, and so on and so forth. So they've had their struggles, fair share of them. But at least consistency was something that developed over the past half decade. But coming back to their strengths and weaknesses, we talked obviously about the bowling department, particularly the Pacers. Cameron Green potentially could provide them with 4 overs. We saw with Mumbai Indians, he came up with some really handy knocks. And obviously, we've also seen in international cricket the sort of impact that he can have. But death bowling. Last season, Harshal Patel wasn't at his best. In fact, it was at the RCB where he truly became the bowler that he's known for. The dip went missing, and of course, that's why RCB released him as well. So, who is going to shoulder the death over responsibilities? Because that has been the Achilles' heels for RCB for the longest time. So much so that there have been instances when they've had to rely on Yuzvendra Chahal to obviously deliver in the death overs. So, that's one massive area of concern. And I also think we do not give enough credit to Faf du Plessis for what he brings to the table, be it for CSK or RCB. Just uncanny consistency, the sort of solidity at the start, at the top, that's extremely instrumental considering what follows after that. Now, of course, also Cameron Green, but otherwise, Glenn Maxwell. Glenn Maxwell, maybe last season, not as good as he was in the season before that, 2022, because 2022, you had Dinesh Karthik performing like never before in the IPL, and of course, Glenn Maxwell as well, being absolutely brutal. Last season, both of them couldn't chip in with much. So maybe that's an area of concern. And in fact, Glenn Maxwell, for all the reputation that he carries, uh, with his off spin, he has made a lot of contributions, particularly in the power play overs, be it for Punjab Kings or RCB. But as a batter, barring that one season and maybe 2013 finals of the Champions League against RR, we've not seen a lot of consistent performances, consistent run of performances. Maybe also 2014 season for Punjab Kings and Kings 11 Punjab. Considering the potential that he brings, we'd expect him to this time around. If the E Salah Cup Day narrative culminates in Cup I mean, obviously they eventually win the title, then Glenn Maxwell, I think, would have to shoulder a lot of responsibilities.
He will do. Absolute box office cricketer. And look, Virat Kohli back, of course, after his paternity leave during that India versus England Test series. There's a lot of talk about, does he deserve a place? Will he get a place in the T20 World Cup squad? Obviously, there's not that long left on paper in terms of time left until that World Cup squad is chosen. However, what a perfect way to prove yourself by performing in the IPL. So I reckon he'll want to make that squad. He won't retire from T20 cricket just yet. He's good enough, and he's going to score 500-600 runs. He's going to show everyone that he should be in that squad, and he's going to be right up there at the top of the run scoring charts. And that's it. He's probably going to get picked at number 3, or maybe even to open. I think he should be opening for India in the shorter format anyway. If he's going to play, either open or don't play. I think that's probably the best way to go. But then you've got the question of Jaiswal and Rohit and who drops down. But listen, long way to go for that. But in terms of the squad, I think he'll make it by his performances in this tournament. I think he's fired up to prove everyone wrong, all the doubters, that he should be in that squad, and he will be. So big season loading for Virat Kohli. You heard it here first. All right, so those two face off in the first match of the competition. Let's talk about the Rajasthan Royals now. They have won the title. Well, I suppose one title is better than none. It was way back in 2008 They played in a different color back then as well. It was a very long time ago. Shane Warne, of course, led them to that famous victory in the inaugural season. There's been a lot of heartbreak since then. And again, a side that you look at, and you look at a side that's got Joss Butler in it, that's got Jaiswal in it, that's got Sanju Samson in it, which they have had for several years. And then in the bowling department, I mean, look at their spin attack in Ashwin, Chahal, Zampa now as well. Trent Bolt, of course, has recently signed from the Mumbai Indians as well. And you look at it on paper and you think, bloody hell, that is an absolute gun side. Dhruv Jurel's in there now, Shimron Hetmeyer as well. The list goes on and on. Rian Parag has sort of recently been showing glimpses of form in domestic cricket. Avesh Khan has been up there in the top of the wicket-taking charts in several seasons as well. So on paper, yes, a good side. What do you feel just doesn't click for the Rajasthan Royals? Do they, I suppose, not have really an identity in terms of their style of play? Do you think that's the issue, that they've chopped and changed so much over the last few years in terms of, do we go spin heavy? Do we go pace heavy? Do we attack the power play? Do we build the power play and then attack at the end? They're just, to me, they don't quite seem so sure. Joss Butler aside, who's arguably the best, T20 opener in world cricket on his day, there doesn't seem to be that much identity about the Rajasthan Royals style of play.
With the identity point, I do agree to a great extent. And unlike the Rajasthan Royals that we got to witness before 16-17 season, when they were obviously not around, but prior to that period, they wouldn't be splurging much. So I understand that they were competing with other teams who would obviously break their banks and manage to get big names. But in Rajasthan Royals, that made a comeback after that 17 season. They have been splurging. There was this one season when they broke the bank for Ben Stokes. For Jaydev Unadkat, they splurged so much. But somehow the results have evaded them. 2022 season made it to the finals, but of course then lost to Gujarat in the finals clash. And but otherwise, there's not much to write home about as far as Rajasthan Royals is concerned. With Sanju Samson, there was obviously the stag of inconsistency that had been accompanying him. Although in the last couple of seasons, it's not like the performances are concentrated in the first 5 games, which was a very glaring pattern that had developed prior to that. But again, Sanju Samson, there's more to him. He has a lot of potential. RR would demand more out of him. Joss Butler, again, he's been their consistent contributor even in that season where they made it to the finals. Joss Butler, he was in absolute red hot form. He was in this blazing form. So his form again would be crucial to Rajasthan Royals' chances, as we've seen in the past as well. And Yashasvi, with the sort of run of form he has been, an absolute purple patch, he'd want to make the most out of it to just strengthen his contention. Of course, he would be there in the squad for the T20 World Cup, but like you mentioned, that there's this probability of Virat Kohli featuring opening. So obviously those questions surround the selection, and that's why to kind of make his position in the 11 confirmed, he'd obviously have to continue the sort of form that he showed against England. And then Yuzvendra Chahal, he'd want to constantly prove himself because now he's out of the picture, out of the radar as far as the Indian team is concerned. So there's a point for him as well to prove. Ravichandran Ashwin, he's done all sorts of things. He's batted at number 3. He has been retired out. So he has done all sorts of possible things in the IPL. He too would have a point to prove because again he doesn't get considered much as far as the shorter formats are concerned, and he being the competitive individual that he is, he'd want to prove that as well. But I also feel Ravichandran Ashwin in the last few years has restricted himself to playing that containing role. Obviously a finger spinner, you'd associate that role with him, but with the sort of things that he can bring to the table, I'd want more out of him to be that lethal threat that opponents fear.
I love it when he bats at number 3 and comes up the order. It's brilliant. His box office stuff. And he's actually listed as an all-rounder on the official IPL website as well because of those exploits. I mean, look, he's got 5 test centuries. He is technically a bowling all-rounder, but the way he was batting in that recent series against England, didn't show any form with the bat. So we'll wait and see if he does have any more exploits up the order. Look, spin bowling, they're pretty much sorted, right? Adam Zampa coming in as well. I think that's a big signing. Whether or not they can fit all three of them in will be the question. Fast bowling, they are without Prasidh Krishna, who's been ruled out again, second successive season, because of a quad injury that he's picked up. So I think that's going to be a big blow. They've not named a replacement as well. So, there could be someone else coming in place of Krishna. And Josh Butler, he's there for the start of the tournament, but he's captain of England. England start a T20I series against Pakistan at home on the 22nd of May. So if they make the playoffs, they're likely to be without Josh Butler. So that could be a massive blow as far as the Rajasthan Royals are concerned as well. But, another good sort of core of squad on paper. And, lots expected, I suppose, of a team like the Rajasthan Royals. A lot of support in England for the Rajasthan Royals. Manoj Badale, of course, being from England, is the owner of the franchise, and they've kind of set up an academy in London as well. And they're really trying to sort of tap into that English market with their signings as well in recent years. Josh Butler, of course, being there. Ben Stokes was there, and, several others they've tried out over the years. But yeah, just that success hasn't really followed suit, really. And I suppose until they go on and start winning titles, I don't think they'll get quite the level of support of teams like Chennai Super Kings and Mumbai Indians overseas. So wait and see how they do. Another side a brand new side really over the last two seasons, the Gujarat Titans, came out of nowhere, won the title. Hardik Pandya, of course, was captain, went to the final last season, probably should have won the final the way things were going. If it wasn't for that Jadeja, those two shots at the end in the final over, it could have been an absolutely different story. But no Hardik Pandya now. He's gone. He's gone to the Mumbai Indians, gone back. He's captain of that franchise. Shubman Gill takes over as skipper. And Hardik Pandya aside, they've got a pretty settled squad. And we know what their style of play is, don't we? They do like to attack in the first 3 or 4 overs and then maybe settle down a bit. And then they've got the finishers, the likes of Miller and Tawatia and Rashid Khan, to come in and finish games. And that's kind of their style. They obviously, had a decent fast bowling lineup as well. We know that Yash Dayal is no longer with them. But a pretty settled squad. I mean, how do you see things with the Gujarat Titans and that blow of losing a captain like Hardik Pandya? How do you think that is going to affect them this season?
Huge difference for sure, because the Hardik Pandya, not just a skipper, but also Hardik Pandya, the player, the sort of value add that he could bring, solidity that he could bring at the number 4. Obviously, he had changed his game from what we used to see at the Mumbai Indians, but then just the assurance that he brought in the 11, in the squad rather. And then we saw that in the finals as well against Rajasthan Royals, and before that in multiple such innings. And also the bowler, he's been bowling maybe not all 4 overs in every game, but some impactful overs. Mohammad Shami is missing as well because he underwent a surgery. So that again is a big blow. Shubman Gill, very exciting to see what he can potentially bring to the table as a captain, because it was courtesy IPL that we got to see Hardik Pandya, the skipper. Before that, he hadn't really captained in any serious game, maybe barring club games that he featured in. So that was very important from India's point of view as well. And he was being looked at as the skipper for the T20 World Cup, until rather that injury hit him in the 2023 ODI World Cup. So Shubman Gill also considered generational talent. So again, a long-term investment that India has been making. And at least in Test cricket, he's being looked at as a potential captain. So really, so many subplots there as well. But talking about Gujarat's batting lineup, the middle order is so crucial. Rahul Tewatia on his day can turn the game on its head, and he has been in good form for a while now since that exploit against Punjab Kings in the 2020 edition of the IPL. We've seen a different Rahul Tewatia. It featured before, but not with as much impact. And then David Miller as well. For the longest time, he'd been struggling for form, barring maybe that 2013 season, that 2013 season of the IPL where he scored those truckloads of runs. Uh, Subsequently, he had struggled massively. once he got into the Gujarat franchise, things changed for him, and obviously changed before that as well for South Africa. But then that kind of coincided, and he has been so important for the team's chances. So as far as the batting is concerned, they bat deep. They also have Rashid Khan who can chip in, so that is very crucial. And how Rashid Khan, which version of Rashid Khan we get to see, considering the injury concerns that have surrounded him, that would be interesting to keep an eye on, because for the longest time of late, what has happened is that the teams are content to play him out. They don't want to take their risks against him. So we see him returning with economical figures, but the wickets column maybe doesn't look too impressive there. So what the team's strategy would be, and how Rashid Khan responds to it, that might just be interesting. But how do you look at their bowling overall?
Look, they've signed Spencer Johnson to bolster the fast bowling unit. Obviously, Umesh Yadav coming in, and he'll have that enforcer's role early on in the absence of Shami. I think that's a massive blow. Mohamed Shami, he's been taking bucket loads of wickets for Gujarat Titans since he joined that franchise. And, particularly early on in the innings, he makes those early breakthroughs. So Umesh Yadav will have that role. I think he'll do that role well. He bowls well in Indian conditions, and, given what kind of tracks they play on, that might have a bearing on how successful he is. But I think generally, particularly early on in the tournament when the tracks are a little bit fresher, I think he'll do well. Mohit Sharma has been a revelation, hasn't he? Coming back, after being in the wilderness, really coming back last season, and the veteran that he is, and almost taking Gujarat to that victory in that final. I know he was the one who eventually got hit with those two deliveries by Jadeja, but he was nailing those Yorkers up until then, and he just got two a fraction wrong, one slightly down the leg side, one slightly shorter than he intended, and it's those tiny little fractions, and when you got a quality player like Jadeja, that can happen. So he almost did it for Gujarat in that final over. I think he'll be crucial for them as well. They need a firing Mohit Sharma to come in and bowl at the death. And Johnson himself, I've seen a little bit of him playing in the Big Bash, exciting young cricketer, decent pace. He's a solid signing, I think. Not a box office signing, but a very solid signing. And I don't know if have you seen any pictures of Spencer Johnson?
I've seen his pictures, but haven't seen him in his full flow.
Okay.
What really
So
stands out to
he basically looks, for those of you who are watching and listening who don't know Spencer Johnson, he looks like a sort of catwalk model that's just stepped off the cover of one of these, or what are the magazines, the men's fashion magazines, GQ or something like that, off the cover of GQ. He's stepped out of there. He's stepped onto a cricket field. So he might get a new type of fan for the Gujarat Titans, given his good looks and everything. But if he can perform on the field, I think that'll be a lot more crucial for the Gujarat Titans. So a decent signing from my point of view. I think their bowling, if things click, can be solid. I think a lot depends on Mohit Sharma, and if he can continue that form from last season, I think that could be crucial for the Gujarat Titans going forward. They've dominated the group stages last two seasons. They've obviously made the two finals as well. I don't think it's going to be quite as dominant this time without Hardik Pandya. Just his captaincy, the fact that he plays that anchor role coming in at number 3 or 4, and really sets the tone of everything that the side does. But, a great opportunity for Shubman Gill to showcase his captaincy talents as well. He's been tipped, hasn't he, as a future captain of India.
Absolutely. And in fact, Mohit Sharma as well, very interesting story, because he had to feature as a net bowler too in between when he did not get picked for the IPL. Just that passion to continue being associated, to continue playing cricket, that really stands out, because there'd be a lot of players in his position who then go back to sulking and who then go back to being disgruntled. But then Mohit Sharma pounced on the opportunity to be a net bowler, and eventually a very befitting opportunity that then came for him from Gujarat Titans. And overall throughout the season, and death bowling, we've seen in the IPL how difficult that can be to execute, because all the batters are looking to go for big shots, understandably considering the format. And then with the impact player rule coming in as well, the best of the hitters are reserved for those few overs, and then to perform in the death overs, to snap up wickets, hats off, really.
Yeah, so Gujarat Titans then, without Hardik Pandya, looking like a very different side, but still keeping their core. So it's going to be fascinating to see the captaincy of Shubman Gill, I think. So we'll keep a close eye on that through the tournament. Let's head over now a little bit further north to Punjab, who they're in a new stadium. Do you know much about this stadium? Tell us what you know.
Well, of course, Mohali, we've seen that stadium offering plenty of runs. But then this new stadium might, considering the fact that it's very fresh, might have something more for the bowlers. Although with the Mohali stadium as well, when we talked about it, regardless of the format of the game, it had something to offer to everyone. This time around would be really interesting to see what the new stadium unleashes. There should be early movement for the Pacers, but the bounce that we got to see in Mohali to come in with the opportunities for the batter to go big. I mean, there are some big shoes to fill for the new stadium, and I think that would be something to watch out for. And also to watch out for perennial underachievers. Punjab Kings, do their fortunes change in the new stadium because they've been struggling for since the time the IPL started.
Do you know what? I mean, the most interesting thing over whether it's the Kings 11 Punjab as they were previously or the Punjab Kings is probably just like Priti Zinta and her reactions and stuff like that. I mean, sorry, Punjab Kings fans watching this, but they're a bit of a boring side, aren't they? Really, there's not even really been that little period where they've competed for 2 or 3 seasons on the trot. They might compete for the odd season a little bit and, have a little bit of a run towards the playoffs or something like that. And then they dip off for another 5 years. And it's just been frustrating, really, because there's so much passion for cricket in Punjab and there's so many Punjabis around the world, expats and things like that. And there's a lot of support for this franchise, but it's so frustrating to see that they just keep underachieving. And you look at their side again. Shikhar Dhawan's there, of course, but coming to the end of his career, they have got some younger players like Prabh Simran Singh, who was, to his credit, quite exciting last season. Johnny Bairstow has the potential, but hasn't quite clicked for him in a Punjab shirt. Riley Russo, another exciting player, but it's when you put on that red of Punjab that something happens to you and you don't quite have that consistency about you. I mean, even in the bowling department, Rahul Chahar did okay last season, but again, just 8 wickets last season, right? So there were flashes of it, but it's just, I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. They just don't excite me. I don't know if there's much more to say about Punjab than that, apart from, can they finally click on and start competing? Because we don't want them to become this kind of side who just finishes bottom of the table or close to the bottom of the table every season. And, you're playing Punjab, you've probably got like a 90% chance of winning. We don't want that kind of thing. We don't want any whipping boys in the IPL. And the reason that we have mega auctions is to level the playing field a little bit during those times. Every few years, everyone goes back into the pot pretty much, apart from, 3 or 4 players that sides retain. And it's a chance for everybody to rebuild and, compete basically with the likes of the Mumbai Indians and the Chennai Super Kings. But it's just never happened for Punjab, has it?
And they've tried out various things, be it in coaching capacity or as captain. There was Ravichandran Ashwin, and I'm just talking about the recent past, KL Rahul, and then of course Shikhar Dhawan, before that Mayank Agrawal as well. Shikhar Dhawan, he was scoring so many runs for Delhi Capitals. Once he put on that red jersey of Punjab, the runs stopped coming with the same consistency. And of course, Mayank Agrawal as well struggled immensely in his last season with the franchise, and that's why he was released. Arshdeep Singh has been kind of bright spot for them since 2020. Last season, maybe not as brutal as he was in the past seasons, but he has been instrumental. Initially as a death bowler, the sort of nerves that he'd show, and that's why he got into India contention as well, did well for India too, and then the way he's evolved as an opening bowler too. So maybe there's some positivity to be found there, but otherwise, middle order, Jitesh Sharma, he has chipped in with some crucial runs, and last season particularly being a revelation, and courtesy those performances, he broke into the Indian team as well. So much to prove for him too, because as far as the wicket keeper slot is concerned, it's still up for grabs for the T20 World Cup for India. So Jitesh Sharma in his last game for India got out on a duck, didn't get much of an opportunity to show what he can contribute for the Indian team. So obviously he'd want to pounce on that opportunity. And Livingston as well. He came to the IPL with a lot of reputation. Didn't do too well for the Rajasthan Royals in the 2021 edition, but across franchise cricket, he has got so many runs. He can be so handy with his bowling as well. So there are people that we're talking about with enormous potential. It's just the onus is on them to replicate it in that red jersey.
Yeah, and a bowling attack as well as Arshdeep Singh in the pace department. They've got Rabada and Harshal Patel. So if they click, they can be a force, but it just never seems to happen, does it, for poor old Punjab, who have spent their fair share of big money over the years as well, and things just haven't worked out the way they would have hoped. And talking about big money, there's no bigger signing in the history of the IPL in an auction than Mitchell Stark, who's gone to KKR. And for me, that 24 point whatever crores, I wouldn't say it's a waste of money, but it's an overhyped thing, isn't it? Because Stark, can be lethal on his day. Hasn't played in the IPL for a decade. Has hardly played much white ball cricket. He's played nothing since the World Cup, since the ODI World Cup. And it was, I think, the hype of the ODI World Cup and, Australia being champions and him doing well, that sort of contributed to that a little bit. And the fact he's not been available to play IPL for all this time has sort of just got people thinking, oh, he's available now, he's back, let's get him, and let's spend all this big money on him. I don't know. I think, what do you make of that? I just think it's a little bit too much money, for not just for any player, because there are maybe the odd player in the world that's worth that much money. I don't think Mitchell Stark is one of them.
I wonder, can anyone be worth that sort of money? 24 plus crores. And we've seen KKR do that before as well. They tried that with Pat Cummins. And then obviously Pat Cummins chipped in with the bat in odd matches. But with the ball, Pat Cummins couldn't contribute much. And of course, we come to him when we talk about the SRH. Similarly, in case of Stark, I do not see how that price tag gets justified, because obviously, with all his experience and maturity, there would be some sort of that price tag pressure. Everybody would be talking about it, considering how big it is, and obviously a record to attach to that. And then what can he bring to the table? He obviously can just chip in with his bowling. It's not like he's an all-rounder. He's no Cameron Green, or wherein if he doesn't perform well with the ball or doesn't find that momentum, he can then contribute with the bat, change the game with the bat. Although KKR probably splurged that much because they do not have that experience in the pace department, and they've struggled in the pace department for the longest time because of uh, the speed that they showed in the Indian talents. Somehow they didn't contribute much. Be it Kamlesh Nagarkoti or Shivam Mabi, since the under 19 days, 2018 was when they snapped these two up, and then continued with them, facilitated their recoveries and everything. But none of that really yielded them good rewards. Lockie Ferguson in between had a good season, 2022 season, but then again was released. So maybe they realized that there's a big glaring gap there that they needed to fill, but fill with such an enormous amount, that leaves us wondering if that is justified. And otherwise as well, Indian talent, we've seen those faces for a while now. Nitish Rana, Shreyas Iyer, we're not really sure about his status because that back spasm also came back in the finals of the Ranji Trophy, and then Shreyas Iyer is again recovering from that last season as well. He missed the IPL the entirety of the season because of the injury. Venkatesh Iyer, 2021 second half was phenomenal. Since then, hasn't been able to replicate that sort of form. And in fact, you remembered Shardul Thakur. It was Shardul Thakur's over in the 2021 season, the finals, that probably turned the game in favor of Chennai Super Kings and helped them seal the title. So another Shardul Thakur memory, Lord Shardul Thakur memory. But all in all, coming back to the KKR, another franchise that hasn't really lived up to the sort of talent, up to its potential, considering the sort of talent has been able to amass. So barring that 2021 season where they made it to the finals, before that, after that, not much to talk about really, right?
Yeah, two times winners though, and
Yeah.
they've got their winning captain back in the coaching capacity now. Gautam Gambhir, I think that'll make a big difference. We've seen him posing with Shah Rukh Khan in pictures, sort of rekindling their bromance or whatever you want to call it. And look, overseas players wise, no Jason Roy. He's dropped out. He's pulled out because of personal reasons. Gus Atkinson of England, workload management, and Phil Salt comes in. So I think Phil Salt will be a decent replacement for somebody like a Jason Roy at the top of the order, but whether or not he finds a regular place in the side, I don't know. But look, Ramanula Gurbaz, exciting player. Dre Russ, of course, and Sunil Narayan, the two West Indians. Can they keep delivering? Dre Russ has shown flashes of, still having what it takes to finish matches and even coming with the ball occasionally and bowl a decent spell. Sunil Narayan, of course, you know what you're going to get. Varun Chakravarti had a dip the season before last, came back well last season as well. So, they've got a pretty solid side on paper. I think Gautam Gambhir will lead them well, and they'll have a solid season, even if they don't go on to win the trophy once again. I think he knows what he's doing. Controversial character in some people's eyes, but he knows what he's doing when he's put in front of a side like that, and either in a captain or coach's capacity. So KKR spending a lot of money, and we'll wait and see if it pays dividends. Another team that's got a lot of money, and that's probably just the owners as well. And we've all seen the recent Ambani pre-wedding photos and videos and things like that. They do like to live lavishly, and they like gold. They like winning gold trophies, whether it be the WPL, whether it be the IPL. They're used to success. And the Mumbai Indians, with Hardik Pandya back in the fold as captain, replacing Rohit Sharma, the captain of India, the captain of India's T20 side. I don't know how well that has gone down. And, there's been sort of stuff coming out, reports that Rohit Sharma's wife isn't happy about certain comments that are being made by the franchise and all that kind of stuff. I think once the tournament starts, all that will be put to one side. Rohit's quite a chilled out character. He's friends with Hardik, obviously. It's not a personal thing between them two. It's a decision that's been made by the franchise and by the coaching staff that Rohit is to step down and they're to look to the future. You'd never go into an IPL season and look at a Mumbai Indians squad and say, yeah, that's an area of concern, or that's an area of concern, apart from maybe the lack of an out-and-out world-class spinner, which over the last few years has been their Achilles heel. But given the tracks that they play on in Mumbai, not as crucial as if they were playing in somewhere like Chennai. So, it's just rock star stuff, isn't it, when you look at their squad?
Absolutely. And the engine room that we keep talking about when we refer to Mumbai Indians of the past that won titles for fun, that had Hardik Pandya. So, of course, Hardik Pandya, also what role he dons for the Mumbai Indians, whether he'd be that explosive finisher, because we haven't seen him do the same for India as well for a considerable time. So that would be interesting to watch out for. Also, the statements that we have seen from Hardik Pandya of late, him talking about how Rohit is like his elder brother, how he'd expect his arms to be around his shoulder, all of that. So maybe some sort of reconciliation being reached, because it was never expected to be smooth if it was to happen in the season. That transition, Rohit had led the Mumbai Indians for a decade, and then with a lot of success as well. The very first season, if you remember 2013, Mumbai Indians were struggling. Ricky Ponting was a skipper, realized that maybe it's time to make way for Rohit Sharma, and that transition happened during the course of the season. And then the fortunes started changing. They won their maiden title that season, 5 titles came subsequently, and then obviously went on to become this dominant force. But the last few seasons, they have struggled massively. 2022 season as well, it took them such a long time to open their account. First 8 games, they couldn't manage those 2 points. So all in all, maybe it demanded a transition. The manner in which it happened, there was always to be concerns around it. There was always to be gossips and disgruntled individuals around it. But as of now, a lot depends on how Hardik Pandya takes it forward. How obviously Rohit is a seasoned campaigner; he's very experienced, but somehow Mumbai Indians' identity has been linked with Rohit Sharma in such a strong manner. And Rohit as well with the bat, he in the last 5 6 years he hasn't fared well. Last season, it went from bad to worse for India, albeit he's managed to get those quick starts in the format. In the and obviously he's coming on the back of that century in the final game against Afghanistan. But Rohit Sharma, the batter, the opener in IPL, runs have not come for the longest time. So that again would be interesting to watch out for. And Jasprit Bumrah is back. But before we say anything else, Jasprit Bumrah being back, how important that is.
It's massive. I mean, he's the best bowler in the world across all formats. Simple as that, really. And we've seen that in Test cricket recently. We've seen it, obviously, for so many years in a Mumbai Indians shirt and in an India shirt, whether it be blue or white. That's huge, isn't it? Just have somebody like a Bumrah there, and the bowling was a little bit of a concern last season, but you got somebody like a Bumrah back in there. The hope was, wasn't it, a few years back, 2 or 3 years, or well, about 2 years ago, when Jofra Archer was bought and he was injured, that one day we would see
Yeah.
Bumrah and Archer opening the bowling for the Mumbai Indians. Never quite happened the way we wanted it to. I know Tamal Mills sort of came in briefly, and that didn't quite work out either. That had a lot of potential. But, Gerald Coetzee as well, somebody for Bumrah to be bowling there with. And, that's going to be exciting the way he bowled in Indian conditions in that ODI World. But yeah, Bumrah at the top, at the death is just, I think, even as a psychological thing, when as an opposing side, you're going to be facing Jasprit Bumrah early on, you start crapping your pants basically and thinking, how am I going to score any runs against this guy? So that's massive. I mean, just look at the players as well. Bumrah aside, you've got Rohit Sharma, you've got Sky, of course. Let's not forget him and his exploits for the Mumbai Indians over the years. Ishan Kishan, hopefully he's mentally in a good space and able to perform a full season for the Mumbai Indians. Hardik Pandya, of course, coming back. And these are just the sort of superstar players I'm talking about. Tim David, again, with all that potential. Tilak Verma, Devol Bravis. Mohamed Nabi's come in as well. And I don't know if he's even considered a star in this setup because they've got so many others. And whether or not he gets many games, we don't know. West Indian Romario Shepherd, another exciting player. Shreyas Gopal's come in. Jason Berendorf has got a lot of experience that he can bring, and then the likes of Bumrah and Gerald Coetzee as well. It's just, on paper, Dilshan Madhushankar, let's not forget him and the way he's performed recently in international cricket. So, yeah, it's exciting stuff when you look at the Mumbai Indians squad, and you'd fully expect them to put in a good title challenge this time around. They don't settle for second best. You can tell the ownership has been getting a bit frustrated with the way things have gone over recent seasons. And it's time to get back to winning ways for the Mumbai Indians. So a lot will be expected of them as well. And I reckon if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I'd probably go with the Mumbai Indians this season, just because of the freshness in the captaincy, the fact that that batting, that bowling, the leadership qualities that he's shown. He's an IPL winning captain himself already. And then they've still got the core of the Sharmas and the Skies and the Bumrahs and the Kishans. It's just a brilliant squad, and probably the best. We talk about all these squads on paper looking good, but that's the best of the bunch in my eyes. Definitely Mumbai Indians, watch out for them. What about the Delhi Capitals? Another big city franchise. Rishabh Pant's back, which is great news. We don't know if he'll be the same Rishabh Pant. We don't know how long it will take him to get back to form. Just the fact that after everything that he's been through, 14, 15 months out, that he's fit and able to play cricket and to keep wickets, which I think is a big thing. The crouching, the getting up, the crouching again. It's not an easy skill, but he's been declared fit to be able to keep wicket and play in this season's IPL. That's just brilliant news for cricket fans around the world.
Absolutely. We say absence makes heart fonder. The same Rishabh Pant, we've seen him being booed on the ground because of the fans obviously remembering Dhoni and looking at Rishabh as Dhoni's replacement and not somebody occupying a slot in the 11. But then obviously he earned that love that obviously also accompanied him through that crisis, through that accident, and all the support that he got after that accident. But then so much to look forward to in what sort of Rishabh Pant we get to see, Rishabh Pant 2.0. And like you mentioned about the wicket keeping, it's such a difficult skill to execute. And for somebody who had that horrific accident, how he would be able to do it day in, day out. But if he's not able to shoulder that wicket keeping responsibility for the longest time. You still have Kumar Kushagra, did so well for Jharkhand in the Ranji Trophy, and that's why it was snapped up for 7.2 crores in the recent auctions in December. And Rishabh Pant, the captain. Now that as well would be interesting to see, because obviously with the sort of life that he has seen in the last year and a half, the maturity, the perspective that would have come, if that would also reflect in the way he goes about his cricket, that is another interesting thing to watch out for. But also the Rishabh Pant, the batter. I'd like to pause a bit here and discuss about how we've seen him change his game over the period of time. 2020 season onwards, he wasn't his old self. We saw him transitioning towards somebody who'd shoulder the responsibility, who'd take time to get set. Are we expecting the same Rishabh Pant this time around as well?
Look, he's a responsible character now, and he knows how to play the situation. It's not the same Rishabh Pant that burst onto the scene and just used to look
Yeah,
to hit every single ball. He's a clever cricketer. He can bat up the order. He can bat in a finisher's role. He knows what he's doing with regards to that. So I think we'll see, particularly given what he's been through. Yes, he'll want to hit that first boundary as soon as possible, just to get back into the groove of things, really, because it's been so long since he's been out there in the middle. But I think he's going to be crucial for them as a leader in that side, of course, and just a leader with the bat. So yeah, a lot of what he does will set the
mm,
tempo for the rest of the side, and he's very good at playing those situations. I think his best format is still Test cricket,
yeah,
which might sound ludicrous to some given his style of batting, but he can play a situation. He
yeah,
can soak up pressure and then explode when he needs to explode. So yeah, I think, look, Rishabh Pant is maturing, and he's getting to that stage of his career where he's reaching those prime years. And unfortunately, he's missed out on a little bit of a chunk of that. But he'll be back. He'll be wanting to prove to himself, I think, more than anything. I don't think he's got anything to prove to anybody else, but prove to
mm,
himself that he's still got what it takes to be that main guy and one of India's main players going forward, and that leader in the Delhi Capitals camp. So yeah, exciting stuff as far as Rishabh Pant is concerned as well. And look, the way they bat at the top of the order, that's going to be exciting as well. Prithvi Shaw and David Warner. We know what we get when those two click. Mitch Marsh comes into the fold this season as well. As far as the batting is concerned, it looks very exciting indeed. Jake Fraser McGurk from Australia as well. Another one who likes playing massive shots in that middle order. I've seen a bit of him. Shea Hope, again, Tristan Stubbs. I mean, there's no lack of power in that
mm,
batting lineup. And then with the bowling, they're quite sorted, really. Akshar Patel is going to be one of their main spinners, can bat up the order as well. We've seen them shift that around in previous times. Khalil Ahmed has been around a bit. Mukesh Kumar is in there. Anrik Norkia, Kuldeep Yadav, Jai Richardson, Ishant Sharma. Yes, there's a little bit of doubts about some of those and the fitness and
yeah,
stuff. Ishant's not played much cricket recently. He's coming into a bit dry. Jai Richardson, we don't know on his fitness state at the moment, but they've got a good squad and they've got backups for all these players. So you can't see all of those batters I named getting into the side. But
mm,
then if any of those other batters has an injury concern or they're out of form, you've got somebody to step in who's almost like a like-for-like replacement. And I think that can be said with the bowling as well. So, I think they've been sensible in the way that they've set up their squad. Sometimes IPL teams get quite excited about, yeah, let's just go and buy this guy and go and buy that guy. He's a great player. But then when you actually put it down on paper and think, how are we going to get all these players into a team? And if so-and-so gets injured, how are we going to deal with that? I think they've been very methodical, I should say, with the way they've selected that squad.
mm. I think Kuldeep Yadav would be crucial to their chances. KKR, obviously, he announced himself with KKR, but then kind of slump followed him there. And 2022 season, it was at the Delhi Capitals that he kind of rediscovered his form. And then similarly, Prithvi Shaw as well. It's very important that he performs well through the course of the season, because we've seen him coming up with those flashes in the pan, but one good season where he does well throughout the course of the season. I think that's very crucial. Andrick Nokia's form as well, and beyond the form, of course, his injury status, because we've seen him being injured for a while now. So how he does well, his fitness would be very important for DC.
Yeah, we've got some comments coming in as well. We have talked about the CSK, but there's a lot of love for CSK on YouTube. Bowen Singh, in particular, earlier on, and then what's this? FFG Yara FF, whatever that stands for. Another CSK fan. We've got Royal Gaming who wants to hear about the Sunrisers Hyderabad, and we will talk about them in just a moment. In fact, let's talk about the Sunrisers Hyderabad now. A bit of a conundrum, really. They've signed Pat Cummins, but they've got too many overseas players, haven't they, in their squad? You look at the money that they've paid as well for somebody like a Cummins, 20 crores, which is not far off Mitchell Stark. And yes, he has previously, Cummins, been the record signing in the IPL auction when he signed for KKR. Didn't really deliver on that occasion. He takes over as skipper from Aidan Markram as well, which is going to be interesting. But look, they've got Heinrich Klaassen, they've got Glenn Phillips, they've got Marco Janssen, they've got Fazal Al Faruqi, they've got Wanindu Hasaranga. How the hell are you going to fit all those into an 11? You can't. You can only pick 4 overseas players. And, you've maybe got Hasaranga having a slight edge on the rest of the guys in terms of the bowlers in particular, Janssen and Fazal Al Faruqi, because you've got an Indian trio of Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, Umran Malik and T. Natarajan who could slot in there and do a really good job. So you might find somebody like a Marco Janssen or Faruqi missing out, which is, crazy when you consider how sought after they were in the auctions.
At Sunrisers Hyderabad, change has been the only constant. The number of changes that they've made as far as the coaching staff is concerned: 3 years, 3 different head coaches. Brian Lara got replaced by Daniel Vittori for this year. In fact, Aiden Markram, all right, they didn't do too well last season, but then the other Sunrisers franchise, the one in SA20, went on to win and win back-to-back titles. So, as a captain, overall, not too bad record. With Pat Cummins coming in, and Pat Cummins boasting of that rich trophy haul World Test Championship and rather 50 overs World Cup, the two things, probably they felt tempted to make him the skipper. But would he feature in every game is my question, because we've seen him in the Indian conditions, in the format, in the tournament. He hasn't really come up with the sort of performances that you'd want from that price tag, and price tag obviously does increase the expectations. In Pat Cummins' case, in India, more so in the IPL, we've seen him being used as an opening bowler, as a death bowler. Australia, on the other hand, use him more in the middle overs. So again, the sort of role that he gets, although they Sunrise Hyderabad have their death bowling broadly sorted, if Nataraj is fit and available and in form. We saw the sort of season that he had in 2020, but then that again could never come back. That could never again be replicated rather, because of his injury concerns. And Umran Malik as well. 2022, he was in phenomenal form, but last season that kind of tapered off a bit. So they have players who've done well and actually ruled the roost in one season or two, but they'd won consistent performances. And similarly with Bhuvneshwar Kumar as well. There was this long period in the IPL when it was very difficult to treat him with disdain. If you remember that innings from Chris Gale, while every other bowler had his figures absolutely thrashed, Bhuvneshwar Kumar was the only one to come out unscathed. So that Bhuvneshwar Kumar, if he can rewind the clock and get back to being the same, it would be very important for Sunrise Hyderabad, because there was a phase in between when they'd consistently make it to the playoffs, and one would be left wondering how on earth did they make it to the playoffs, because there's this one season where they made it with 6 wins. But then following that has been struggle for the longest time for Sunrisers. So, but what chance do you give them for the season?
Not much. Not much. I'll keep it brief. I think they're going to struggle to find their team balance. There's going to be a lot of chopping and changing through the season, and by the time they get something settled, I just don't think that they've got what it takes. Although having said that, Pat Cummins as a captain is a serial winner, so he has got that kind of going for him, which is not a bad trait to have in a captain. But yeah, I just think there's too many stronger sides in the competition when you look at the comparisons. And finally, look, there's one side we haven't talked about, the Lucknow Super Giants, of course. They've done well in their early
Yeah.
stages as a franchise. 2 third-place finishes in the group stages over the last 2 seasons, their first 2 in the league. But a little bit of a doubt over captain KL Rahul coming into this season. We'll see what his quad injury leads to and how long he's out for. I think that's going to be a big blow, not just as the batter KL Rahul, who we know, look, there's been concerns over strike rate and things in the past, but quality player always scores runs in this competition. He's always up there in the run scoring charts when he plays a full season. That's going to be a big blow. There were talks about Rahul when he does come back playing maybe in the middle order rather than at the top of the order, which might help, his chances of making that T20 World Cup squad for India. So, we don't know his situation. Quinton de Kock had a pretty good season a couple of years ago, but last season didn't perform as well. And Carl Mayers came in and sort of did a little bit better. And Devdutt Padikkal, interesting acquisition. I think he will probably play at the top of the order. And whether that be alongside de Kock or Mayers, we'll wait and see. But I think that's a big signing for them, isn't it?
Hmm. Devdutt Padikkal, barring that first season for Royal Challengers Bangalore, never really got to open the innings, and that kind of reflected in the sort of returns that he came up with. Rajasthan Royals, he'd be slotted into the middle order, and then he responded to it by also featuring in the middle order for his domestic team, that is Karnataka. So now I reckon he has fair bit of experience batting in the middle order as well, and of course we know what he can do opening the batting, particularly in the power play overs. The concern is primarily around his game after the power play overs. And once, of course, you the field restrictions that changes, David Padikkal struggles a bit. So how he fares in the middle overs would be something crucial to his chances for India as well, across the shorter formats. But all in all, KL Rahul had come back to that point. He makes run scoring so easy. We talk about him, criticize him for his strike rate, but then just the sheer amount of runs that he scores and has been scoring across franchises, be it for Punjab Kings or Lucknow Super Giants, and over a period of 3-4 years. So uncanny consistency there. If he doesn't feature regularly, that is going to reflect. Albeit, although in his absence, Krunal Pandya has shown a lot of responsibility. He has stepped in, but then KL Rahul's absence is a big hole if he goes missing for the longest time for Lucknow Super Giants. But just the consistency as well of the franchise. They've featured in 2 IPL seasons, third place finishes, and have been very impressive during the course of the league stage. So kudos to them, and onus on them also to take it forward from here. Gautam Gambhir would be missing this season because he's gone to KKR. So at the top, be it KL Rahul, be it Gautam Gambhir, we don't really know how that really shapes up.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've got some decent all-round power in there, albeit not players in maybe the best of form in Krunal Pandya, Marcus Stoinis and Deepak Hooda. So a lot of potential there. Nicholas Puran's coming in as well to, slot into that middle order. So, again, lots of potential for the Lucknow Super Giants. I think that's all the teams covered, right? My head's a bit of a blur at the moment. We've covered all 10 teams, and
Well, 10 out
we've
of
given
10.
you... Sorry?
10 out of 10.
10
We
out of
hope we
10,
get
yep.
that score.
Full marks for us. And look, just keep an eye across our feeds because we will be bringing you regular podcasts and live shows like this across Facebook and YouTube throughout the competition. It's a bit of a marathon over 2 months long, and that final will probably be, we don't know yet because of the elections in India, the full schedule beyond the first couple of weeks. But it's likely to be that final weekend of May. That's when it's been scheduled in for, 26th of May. So from now and until then and beyond, do stay tuned to everything that we've got to offer. Quickly from you, Mega, as a Delhi girl, back in the capitals?
You see, Delhi Capitals doesn't enjoy as much loyalty, even amongst people in Delhi. I've always had a tough time choosing my favorite team. It's contingent upon a lot of things. But now that you put that pressure on me with that Delhi girl tag, okay, I feel compelled to cheer for Delhi Capitals, and with Rishabh Pant back, maybe yes. But how about you? Is it still Mumbai Indians?
Look, Mumbai Indians, it's been from the start because of Sachin. And then obviously with Gujarat Titans coming in and having that permanent franchise, Gujarat Lions didn't get anyone excited, I think, because it was always a temporary thing. It was good. Look, it's a difficult one. It's between those two. And if they come up against each other, maybe ask me on the day what I'm feeling. Let's just leave it at that. But I think the Mumbai Indians do look strong. Objectively speaking, they probably look strong to mount a really serious title challenge this time around. So I'm backing them from that point of view as me just looking at it and thinking that they've got what it takes to win that title. But, you know, a long way to go. Tournament kicks off on Friday, of course, Friday the 22nd of March. And as I say, just stay tuned to our feed. We'll bring you regular updates and reviews of what's happened in the week and things like that. We'll try and get a special guest on or two during the course of the IPL too. But we hope you've enjoyed that episode. Do like and subscribe to the podcast via your feed, or whether you're listening and watching on Facebook or YouTube, do give us a like and subscribe on there as well. But for now, that's all we've got time for. Do enjoy the start of the IPL, and we'll be back with you very soon.